Welcome to my first devlog for the month of March. Um, just gonna be going through this real quick, as quick as I can. So yeah, so I'm basically creating a crafting and survival system for the month of March. It's gonna be less of a game and more of just me trying to learn these systems and mechanics as much as possible. That way, for the next games that I create, looking to create a survival game the best that I can, and in order to do that, I feel like crafting an inventory system is these things are very crucial to what a survival game is all about, in my opinion. And so yeah, I'm just focusing on creating that. Just go through it real quick. Oh well, first I just want to say that I'm using the same first-person character that I was for my last game that I created, Carry On, for the month of February. And yeah, so going through a series of YouTube videos and just drawing my own conclusions and how to create a nice cohesive one using the both of these things, and going on Google and finding just the best ways to go about it. Uh, Came up with this inventory system and crafting system. They don't work cohesively right now, but this will be something that I'll be working towards in this week to come. So I'll just show you how it works. So you basically walk up to a rock, press E to interact with it, and it's now in your inventory. And so once you hover over it, it'll show you the name of the item that you have in your inventory, as well as the description underneath it. So rock, and then used to make tools, and then right here shows you the amount of tools, the amount of that item that you have. So if we were to go up to another rock, the third one, we can see that it's now in our inventory. I don't know where the other one went. Yeah, minor bug, but that will be something to work on later on in the week. So yeah, if we also go up to these plants here, pick up 3 of them, and we see we have 3. And the difference between the rock and the plant right now is that one is stackable and the other isn't, just for testing purposes. Going through the YouTube videos was something that they went about just to give an example of something that might not be stackable, like weapons, for instance. In some games, weapons aren't stackable, and I guess this could be used as an example if you wanted to do your own thing like that. So yeah, you hover over the plants and it shows there are 3 of them, and it's also used to make medicine, or in some cases poison. And all these things right now are interactable. So if you right click, it uses one of the items, right click again, then it just disappears after all of them are gone. Same with the rocks. Consuming them isn't going to be what we want right now, because you're not able, I mean, it doesn't make sense to consume rocks or plants for our purpose right now. But eventually, once we have all those things, it's gonna once we have enough like rocks or plants, right here is where the items are going to be toggled. That way, if you have 3 plants, you can make a healing herb, and then rocks, and then like a piece of wood, you make a hatchet, and so on and so forth. Another thing we were working on the past week was the treasure chest. So it's basically just the same inventory that the player has on right now attached to this container here. And if you hover over it, still shows all the same details as when it's in your inventory, and it also labels the title of the inventory itself. So you can have a number of different things here, and my goal is to eventually randomize the different items inside each chest that you come across. It could either be a chest or a vase or anything. So if you right click, it automatically goes to the inventory system, but for some reason there's a little bug here where yeah, it just doesn't show the right number, but that's something we're going to be fixing later on. But yeah, that is pretty much it, and I also want to show you guys the things that I've been doing documentation wise. So first thing I want to show you is this Google Sheets document. Now this is a template that I've worked on or that I found online, and this is just basically the different recipes that I can have, as well as the resources needed in order to create these recipes. So yeah, I found this online, and this is really cool, very easy to use. The calculator just shows like if you need a certain amount of any of these items, how much you would need in total at the end. So if we put like we want to get 2 hatchets, then okay, in total you're gonna have to get 2 wood and 2 rocks, because 1 hatchet is 1 wood, another hatchet, or 1 wood and 1 rock. And like, let's say you want 3 healing herbs. Since 1 healing herb is 3 plants, 3 healing herbs are gonna be 3 or 9 plants. So just stuff to make it easier to understand how much you need of each resource. And yeah, this is really awesome because you can list all of your recipes here. So if I wanted to create some random thing, like, so we have monster sword, salad, and stew. The stew, it takes 2 plants, and then eventually once we have like enemies in our game, I'm just gonna call them monsters, and once you kill them, they're gonna drop monster remains, is what I call it for now. And we're also gonna need a cooking pot, which we'll be able to craft later on. Yeah, so we're gonna have to get 2 plants, 3 of the monster's remains, and then throw that in a cooking pot, and that's gonna get you some monster stew. And I'll just show you real quick an example of how easy this is to use. We can just say monster chicken, I don't know, or monster sub, I guess, doesn't really matter. We can say monster sub is gonna be 5 plants, and maybe we're gonna have to chop it up with our hatchet, you know, for whatever reason. 3 of those, and then yeah, maybe we're just gonna use 1 of the monster remains, and that's basically all you need to do. That's your recipe. So you put the name here, and then the resources, and if you wanted to add more resources like bread, then it would take 1 piece of bread, and now that's all the ingredients you need in order to make a monster sub. If you go to the calculator, and then we go down to monster sub, and say we needed 1 of these. Well, let's get rid of these first. Yeah, so if we need 1 monster sub, somehow this template calculates everything you put in the recipes, and it automatically says, okay, cool, you need 5 plants, 3 hatchets. 3 hatchets. Yeah, I guess that's what I put. 3 hatchets. 1 monster remain, and then 1 piece of bread. So that's really cool. And then this next thing here, I created a stats sheet. This is completely separate from the template itself. I just threw this in here so I can get a better feel of what things should do what. So the hatchets, stats for, or these are the stats for equipment, and then I put all of the equipment here, and the stats right next to it. So this is all going to be the attack stat. So the hatchet is going to have 3 because that's just going to be for chopping down wood. The sword is going to be 5 attack because it's meant for dealing damage to enemies. And then a poison sword, or a poisoned sword in this case. It's going to be 7 damage, and then you create a poisoned sword. As we can see in this recipe, we are going to use 5 plants and then just the sword itself. So you're going to have to create the sword and then throw 5 plants on top of it. And after that's crafted, it's going to be a poison sword. So you can just fix this up real quick. And then a monster sword is going to be 10 damage because you're going to have to take a little more effort into crafting this thing. You're going to have to destroy some enemies. And, where is it? Monster sword. Yeah, so we're going to need a sword and then kill a bunch of enemies. 5 remains, so it's going to be a handful, and that's going to give you the most damage there. Different status effects for each of the foods that the player is going to be able to create or craft. So we have the status effect of each of these things here. And so we have attack, health, and then the duration of whatever the effect is. So for monster salad, if you consume that, you get 5 plus 5 attack, but you also lose 5 damage, or 5 of your health, and this lasts for 60 seconds. Monster Stew, because it's a little more difficult to craft, it's going to give you plus 10 attack, and then it also doesn't give you any debuffs. This is also going to last 60 seconds. The healing herb is just plus 10 health. Super simple. Just some type of healing thing. And this was part of the template. Don't really know what that does. But yeah, I just mainly focus on stats, recipes, and the calculator to kind of come up with some stuff. The last thing that I wanted to show was my game design document. So I was trying to practice my game design documentation. This is super simple. I've only worked on it for a couple of minutes, 10, 15 most. Just coming up with proper documentation of the things that I feel like are in the game or will be used in the game in the future, and just documenting some things that I've already done. So I went about it in the way that I learned in college when I was at Full Sail University. So we followed the gratis format. Just throw the name on top of there. Don't have a name for it yet. I'm thinking it doesn't really matter right now, but we'll throw a game in there later on. So the gratis format: goals, rules, actions, transitions, items, and then the setup. The goals is self-explanatory. Goal of the game is to survive as long as possible, etc., etc. Rules is just the rules of the game, what you can do, what happens to the player, what things affect the other. Actions, just things that you can do. So I just have the basic attack, interact, jump, all that stuff. Transitions, what the game looks like for the player. So they would enter the world, find resources, use those resources to craft an axe, chop down trees, and just the gameplay loop in general. And then items, self-explanatory again, just all the items that are in the world. And then the setup is just going to be basically, I don't know if I'm going to use this necessarily, but it's just going to be things like what kind of scripts I need, what things the game needs in order to function, like crafting system, inventory system, and yeah, all that good stuff. So this is just something I came up with in a few minutes just to get the ball rolling, and then next week I'm going to expand upon this some more. Yeah, that's all I wanted to show you guys. Oh, last thing as well. My Trello board. This is what I use for project management. So yeah, just my things to do, my in progress stuff. So this is stuff that I'm working on now, my crafting system, be able to use your inventory, all this good stuff. And then I just left this here so that I can read what I worked on last week. That way I can just hop right back into it. And then things I've completed. So I had a bug that I fixed. And yeah, and then I have these labels here so that I can know which thing to focus my priorities. So I have all these labels: easy, medium, hard, and then things that I feel like could work for the game if we have a little more time. But it's not necessarily the most important. So this would take the least priority. It would be suggestions, then easy, then medium, then hard. That's how I'd focus my stuff. And this is just basically the way I go about my project management stuff every game I work with. So I'll just do this basic setup and yeah, follow suit. And while I'm working, if I'm not working on this right now and I feel like container would probably take more priority, or I feel like I could knock this out easily, I would just throw this in the in progress stuff, and then once this is checked off, click on that. It's 100% done, 3 out of 3. Put in the completed, and then just work on the next thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's gonna sum it up for this devlog. This is a very long one. I didn't think it would be this long, but hopefully this gave you some insight on my working habits and stuff like that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it was very informative. If you guys have any suggestions and any better tools to maybe use, or any learning resources that I could use to enhance my learning, or just how to make a better inventory or crafting system in general, feel free to let me know.